Hi everyone, I'm Jim Tolles. I'm a spiritual teacher. I blog regularly at spiritualawakeningprocess.com and I share videos here. Today I want to talk about adding or subtracting your ego. Before I get into this topic, I invite you to look at the resources down below that will also continue on this topic, other blogs and videos I have, as well as a free newsletter. And if you'd like to support this channel, there's a donation link, and I appreciate any and all support those of you may give. Adding or subtracting ego is a big deal right now because we have so much information online and it's pointing people into so many different directions. I'm a spiritual freedom teacher, so I'm interested in helping you let go of your ego, subtract it, to be at peace with what is. And since life is always changing and giving us different things, and our bodies are always changing and giving us different things, it becomes kind of the only sane conclusion. Because if we seek happiness, happiness will come and go. If we seek safety, safety will come and go. If we seek healing, which is important, and it's its own sort of path, it's different than those other two, even as we come into a sense of wholeness again, that wholeness can come and go. We can get sick again, we can get injured again. And if we are attached to one of these things, or all of these things, if we're attached to anything in general, we're going to suffer because invariably life will change, and that thing will go away. And coming back to freedom, we surrender to that change and say, okay, this is part of life. And we allow it. Now, a lot of spiritual things that are going online these days are about getting stuff. And what you end up doing is you accumulate practices, spiritual ideas, spiritual experiences that you usually want to continue, particularly if they're enjoyable, spiritual names, spiritual tattoos, spiritual clothing, and pretty soon all you've really done is redecorated the prison cell. The prison cell is a metaphor for the ego. So people may take down some of these old drapes and old pictures and stuff like that, and then they put up a new set of things. But the core issues all remain, and those define and drive the ego, and they continue somebody's suffering. Suffering is not going to end just because we put on different clothing and have a different set of ideas. Ideas, when they're useful, are functional. Functional ideas help us to engage with life, not to try and create more of a buffer against it. And that's what a lot of spirituality does. One of the ways that we start to get into that subtractive process is to look within and to start to question our own beliefs, rather than looking to someone else to give us new beliefs that are somehow better. So I hope just in saying that already gives you some idea of the difference of quality. Just in what I said, it's like looking within to question ourselves versus looking to someone to give us something, right? If somebody's giving us beliefs, that's that more idea. It's like, how can I get more? Western culture loves to tell us we should have more or somehow make us better. We don't need more. And you don't need to believe me. But you can follow the things I'm pointing towards to find out for yourself. And usually what happens when you find out things like, wow, none of my beliefs are mine. I adopted them from somebody else. I just took them on and decided that they were mine. A lot of my interests aren't mine. They're coming from my body's desires to do different things like procreate or to find safety or to whatever. The deeper ones aren't too many down there, but whatever they're playing out in your life. So like a lot of people's careers and the whole drive to get to succeed, it's nothing more than the drive to survive, the fear of pain. Some very basic biological functions that are getting confused in modern day society. And what I say by confused is our basic biology is interested in immediacy. If we're immediately safe, we've got food and water and shelter, we don't need to keep going. But the way that our ego builds on top of that, it's like it makes us never feel like we're safe. So we never have enough money, enough things, enough relationships, enough technology, enough clothing, enough vacation time, it's never enough. All right, so that sense of lack is a big problem with the ego, and that drives a lot of people, particularly in the spiritual path, to get more. But that lacking will never tell you that it's had enough. So we want to subtract ego, beliefs and fears and feelings that feel like they're not enough. And as we do that, it's like removing furniture from a room. Awareness is like spaciousness. And if you want to find more space in a room, you take things out of it. You take things like a sense of self-hatred out of it. You take a sense of scarcity out of it. You take the illusion that you are a separate being out of it, right? And then the room's, if you let go of that one, the room no longer exists, right? There's just oneness. Right, so we remove these things by going within, learning to do inner work, journaling, the ways we can kind of breathe into certain things that are feeling tense and really holding on very physically, because we really do hold attachments in our bodies as well as in our hearts, in our heads. So what happens when you subtract things? You don't have anything that you can brag about. You don't have anything to show other people. So some of the people, and maybe they're in your life right now, you don't realize it, but some of those people who've really evolved in the spiritual path, they don't shout it. They don't need to show it. Unless they're a teacher like me, they don't point it out really. Because why? They don't need to, right? They've opened up the spaciousness inside. And there's this wonderful sense of freedom inside. There's nothing more to be done. It's not a badge of honor. And when life goes bad, and this is a sign of a certain level of maturity, when life goes bad, they don't really give up that freedom. They don't think that they've done something wrong with their practices. It doesn't mean that as you get more free, you don't feel feelings. You absolutely do. You continue to feel the full range of feelings, actually. You feel more. But when a self-hate issue isn't there to tell you should feel bad that you stubbed your toe today, or that you've got food poisoning, or that you got fired, or that your partner's having an argument with you about who let out the cat last night and the cat hasn't come back, right? This person isn't as troubled inside. Now, they don't go into any self-blaming and that sort of thing because there's that space. And the more somebody opens up that space, the harder it is to upset somebody. And they become more and more free. And this gives them also more room to express and to act in life any way that they can and want to. And that's a different thing. That's a process of growth, to be with that more intuitive, natural way of behaving, which doesn't usually want very much, doesn't care about purpose, soulmates, doesn't care. Right? A lot of these other things, like I really want to caution people to really ask yourself, are you trying to add things in your life on your spiritual path? Because if you are, you're likely to get lost. Trying to add a soulmate to make yourself happy, or purpose, or whatever it is, a better place to live. It's endless for the ego that feels like it's lacking things, or that feels unsafe or unhappy in any sort of way. It will keep trying to grab, and it will grab spirituality as its own kind of bad addiction to like keep trying to hide that stuff. We don't hide things on the subtractive process to freedom. We illuminate them. And we step back to awareness to watch them, to notice their power over us. And even as we're stepping away from them and watching them, we're taking power back. If we identify with it, we're just charging up the energy. It's like plugging in a fan, and the fan will keep spinning. But like the fan metaphor, the minute you turn off or unplug the fan, it doesn't stop. And that's part of the grind that I sometimes mention in my work of the spiritual path, that we have to be with that slowing down as that fan gets squeakier and nastier and starts smoking because it wants that energy back. And that's the way that our ego runs back in and says, oh, we have to worry about this, or we're not going to get that, or so-and-so doesn't like me. And sometimes people don't like you for like changing on the spiritual path because you're not continuing to play out the role in their head that they want you to play out. But the reward of losing ego, if you can get past a couple key turning points, it's immeasurable. It's invaluable. Whatever the ego thinks it's losing, along with losing itself, ultimately isn't that much to the spaciousness and the opportunity and the freedom that you gain. And the gain is not even the right word, right? See, that's a Western language, such a tricky thing. That spaciousness was already here. We had subtracted it by getting into this ego that's always trying to focus on gaining things. Are you following me here? It's a weird thing, but we have all this freedom. And then as we grow, we become this ego self that says, I don't want all this freedom. I want to be this little person. I live in this little box. And these are the 5 things that make me happy. Nothing else will make me happy in the entire universe. Are you getting this? Like, how ridiculous is that? We start off with freedom, and we just gradually keep taking it away from ourselves. And so we were already in this bizarre reverse psychology sort of a thing. So coming back and letting go of the ego kind of makes us start to think straight again. And part of that is seeing, I don't have to be these things, and I can let them go, and letting them go and subtracting them instead of trying to add on and give to this completely miserable little space inside called the ego that has so many rules and limitations. Instead of trying to play that game, we drop that game. And the whole world opens up in front of us. I hope this helps. If it doesn't, you can leave a comment below on this video. And as I said before, there are some other links that you can read on this topic or watch on this topic some more, as well as a newsletter and a way to donate. Have a beautiful day, everyone.